Well, did you miss us? Yeah, sorry. We were on a 2 week hiatus because this man has a new job. He kind of was a little busy. I was busy. But we're back after 2 weeks. We do
Life happens,
apologize. We're gonna try to be regular on time going forward. It might, episodes might come out a little bit later because of the fact, but because the schedule is going to be very inconsistent
Yeah.
with days and whatnot. But
So,
at least we're going to still be able to do this show every once in a while. I mean, if there's
yeah.
weeks that I have to do it myself compared to with him, it might be like that too. Who knows? Of course, we'll let you know. But yes,
It's still kind of like a varying. Like episodes will vary, determined by my schedule and everything like that. But for
right,
the most part, I should have at least a somewhat consistent schedule going forward that can actually like permit me from you know that can actually permit me like doing these week to week, but it's really just a like toss up between you know if I'm scheduled or not. Um, but regardless, we're here. We are not live, but we'll just for the sake of it, we'll just say we're here. We're live in living color, and
right.
um, now normally we start off the show talking about Impact. I actually don't have notes for Impact as to tell you guys the truth. We were planning on discussing Ring of Honor Final Battle. That will come up, even though I know we're like super late on it, but we will discuss Final Battle, and I'm sure everybody knows like all the results by now. We know all the results by now, at least for the main show. As far as the 0 hour, we know nothing about the 0 hour. But regardless, we will discuss Ring of Honor Final Battle, and also eventually down the road, we do plan on discussing Ring of Honor like weekly television, which it is going to be on Honor Club as a subscription for $9.99 a month. That's actually not too bad, and I'm actually thinking about getting it. So look forward to possible Ring of Honor content going forward. But enough of that. We will discuss Ring of Honor Final Battle, and I was going to do Impact, but like I said, have no notes. The main things to talk about with that is, first of all, congratulations to Jonathan Gresham for signing with Impact Wrestling. That's pretty big. Also, the big thing that happened this past week on Impact Wrestling is we have new Impact Tag Team Champions in the Motor
Yeah,
City Machine
finally.
Guns.
Jesus,
So
took them a
now they
long
are
time.
co-holders of both the New Japan Strong Tag
Mm.
Team titles and the Impact Tag Team titles. I look at it this way: how long potentially before FTR challenges the Motor City Machine Guns for those New Japan Strong Tag Team titles?
Um. Well, I mean, currently they're just the
They are the
NJPW
IWGP.
IWGP Tag Team Champions.
Who's to
So,
say they couldn't hold those New Japan Strong Tag Team titles, though? I mean,
I mean,
hey,
yeah.
it'd be another New Japan title that they don't have.
Or a tag
Add
team
to their
title,
legacy.
or tag team titles that they never have won before to Impact World Tag Team titles. That could
Well,
be strongly possible too.
that's gonna come like later on if they, because like the whole thing with FTR right now is like their contract is potentially coming up. Who's to say they don't sign with New Japan?
And
And
it
if
could
they
be
do,
eight
eight
star
star FTR.
FTR.
But who's to say that because of them signing with New Japan and New Japan and Impact having a working relationship, who's to say they couldn't just show up at Impact or New Japan Strong one of these days and challenge the Machine Guns for at least one of their tag team titles?
I
Who's to
mean,
say?
I'm probably thinking more Impact than, but I mean, that would be another dream match right there. The
Yes.
Motor City Machine Guns and FTR. I
I
mean,
mean,
make it happen.
technically we kind of got it, but that was also a six-man tag with Jay Lethal, so that doesn't really count. It was Jay Lethal and Wardlow that were interjected
Right.
between, so that doesn't really count. We need a proper like two-on-two tag match between FTR and the Machine Guns. But now we will get into AEW talk.
Yeah. So start off the night with
Match
Dynamite
4,
match 4 of the seven
the
of
best of
the
seven
best of
series.
seven series. Death Triangle and Elite face off against each other, and surprisingly in the match, Nick Jackson got hurt. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know how he got hurt, but
I don't
um,
know how he got
he got
hurt,
a
and I
like.
don't know how legitimate it actually
Apparently,
is.
it was an ankle injury. Matt, who noticed it, went over and checked up on him. That's how I think it's actually a legitimate injury because Matt
If anything, it might just be like sprained, and
probably.
in that case, he can just like put
And
a
then
brace
and
on
then
it if it's not that serious.
he left, went in the back, came back, was limping badly, and finished off the match. But ultimately, it led to um, the roll up pin for Death Triangle after dirty tactics with the hammer yet again,
Yes,
which
he
then
used the hammer
prompted
to the ankle,
the Elite to throw out a no DQ stipulation for match 5,
which
which
it
is
is
going to be
official, going to be on Dynamite tonight. But by the time this video comes out,
probably the
Dynamite
match
will
that
be
will.
on the
Well,
air.
I would
So
think that it would probably be the main event. It would make sense. No DQ match 5. Why not have it as your main event? I mean, that's
I
gonna be a
mean
hell of a
that,
match on
yeah,
Holiday Bash. But ultimately, I mean, this has been the best viewing of TV in the longest time for Dynamite.
yeah.
No offense to Dynamite. I mean, they've had some great matches, but this is what's really keeping up. You know, I hate to say it, I think this is really what's keeping up the viewership in Dynamite, in my opinion, is these best of 7 series between the Elite and Death
Well,
Triangle
it's
because
funny with that
they're
because
very high caliber matches.
yeah.
They're bringing the energy. Every single match feels like a pay per view style match.
Well, see, that's the thing though, is like initially when it was announced that it was a best of seven series, a lot of people were met with like confusion, and then a lot of people were met with like sort of met with I guess sort of
And
like
let me tell you something here.
frustration. But it actually turned out to be a really good thing for
I,
AEW with
I
this
agree.
best of seven series.
Ultimately, I think this is going. We'll discuss this a little bit more. I mean, we'll get into the next thing, but ultimately, I think this is going to be going all 7 matches.
Yeah.
Match 5 is going to be no DQ. Match 6 is going to be false count anywhere,
Yep.
and
And
then
then
match
match seven,
7 they said it is basically going to be a
it's
ladder match,
Escalera de la Muerte, which is a ladder match.
which is basically like a Mexican style
Yeah, like
ladder
lucha
match,
style ladder match.
which
Which I mean,
sounds pretty freaking cool to me. But ultimately, I think what's going to happen is you would have to have, like, basically what they're saying is it's going to go all 7 matches,
mhm.
and those tag team titles are going to probably be hanging above, and whoever goes up is going to grab those trios tag team titles, which, by the way, it's going to be 3 titles instead of 2 that you have to get down, which
Yeah,
is
I
going
was
to
gonna
be
say that.
interesting.
Well, that's the thing too. How would you even like go about hanging that up
I think
on like
you,
a
I think,
cable or whatever? Would you use like one bar for all three
I
titles?
would think so, yeah.
You would have to.
You would have to have one that's big enough for 3 titles, but
Yeah.
ultimately, I think it's gonna go all 7 matches. And personally, my team that I think I'm gonna go with that's gonna win it, I say Elite wins the next
Yeah.
2 because it would have to make sense.
Well, especially to go to a
Like they're
match
gonna
seven.
win match 5, they're gonna win match 6. Ultimately, I think it's gonna be Death Triangle that's gonna win it all.
I don't know.
I would love to see the Elite, but ultimately, I think that Death Triangle is going to take the bag in the end of the day, and I think that they're going to retain the World's Trios Tag Team titles. I do not see the Elite winning 3 matches in a row. Ultimately,
Mm,
actually, yeah, 3 matches in a row. I don't see it happening.
well, the thing about it is like I feel like it's gonna happen with the elite because like the thing is we never got a proper like reign with the elite and those trios titles. Like they won the titles at All Out and then they pretty much had to forfeit them right after because of the whole like CM Punk incident.
Now,
So I think
I know.
this time Tony Khan is going to right his wrongs with that and actually
Mm,
give the elite a proper run
it's
and
possible.
championship reign with the elite and those trios titles.
Now, I mean, ultimately, what I would love to see happen, and if Tony Khan really wants fans to get invested in those World Trios Tag Team titles right now, which I think a lot of people probably are after the series. Ultimately, I think whoever does win and have the World Trios Tag Team titles faces off against the House of Black. I think all House of Black should be the ultimate end goal. Mm. And I think it should lead into Revolution next year for the World Trios Tag Team titles. If not, maybe beforehand, who knows? But what better way to have whoever wins the trios tag team titles at the end of this face off against the House of Black. House of Black has been on a tear. They've been looking lethal. Ultimately, I think they're going to go through a lot of trios to get into facing for those tag team titles. And what better way to have? I would love to see it be. It would be nice to see the Elite versus the House of Black. I think that would be one hell of a match to see at Revolution. But
Mm.
I wouldn't be shocked to see it being House of Black and Death Triangle because if anybody remembers, I don't want to talk. This will be my last point. If anybody remembers, they did have a feud before their little hiatus. Death Triangle and House of Black had
Oh
their
yeah,
whole
yeah,
running,
yeah,
and
they did.
I
They
think
did.
they're going to renew that rivalry and set up, the big shebang at the pay per view.
I'd be okay with that, honestly.
So I think that's what they're probably going to push towards. And
Oh, what?
ultimately,
And actually like have it for the titles
yeah,
and actually have like House of Black beat Death Triangle for the
I mean,
titles.
I would like that.
Honestly, I wouldn't hate that idea either, but I think like the ultimate end goal is to have the elite like
And then
be
if you think about
but
it, what they're
I would be
also going to be
very
setting up, they're going to be setting up. I mean, of course, this is like what 3 months away, the
yeah.
pay per view. Ultimately, I can see it also another match that is teased for the pay per view. I think it's going to be Bryan Danielson versus MJF. That would be a killer match for the world title.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately like what they're building towards. And honestly, as much as I feel like it would be too soon to have him lose, give Danielson a run with the AEW World Title. Ultimately, like before he retires, because he's saying that like by the end of like 2023 or whatever, that he's like looking to no longer become a full time wrestler. And like at that point, I think he's ultimately like looking to retire. Which I mean, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then
Right.
But ultimately, like just give that man a world title in AEW,
I
like
agree.
please.
I think
If
we.
not AEW, definitely Ring of Honor.
I
Let him
think
have like one more run with the Ring of Honor world title.
right. So I think we went on a little much for the first one. So next one we get on to, they claim we're ready to make their set to make the entrance and do the refs, but we're interrupted by Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, Satnam Singh, and Jeff Jarrett, who seem to lay out the challenge for the acclaim for their their World Tag Team titles there. Um, Personally, I guess I'm okay with it. I mean, with everything that's going on with both of them.
I'm not, because honestly, like, it's just gonna be TNA Jeff Jarrett all over again. He's gonna kill the momentum of like everybody who is seemingly like getting over, and then he's gonna put himself over as like the top guy, and just like book himself in all these like high caliber like championship matches. And like yeah, so like all these old school TNA fans are having PTSD all over again from Jeff
Yeah,
Jarrett
but the only
like
difference is that Jeff Jarrett's not involved. Is not, you know.
directly involved with like creative,
Yeah,
which
he's not
that's a
involved with
good
creative.
thing.
It's Tony Khan. So ultimately, I don't think that's gonna happen.
But who's to say
But
Jeff Jarrett doesn't have like a sort of like
right.
leeway in his creative direction? You
But
know?
ultimately, I'm not mad with the direction that they're going here. I mean, you got to do something with Jay Lethal. I get it, yeah, Jeff Jarrett's there, and this is technically the, TNA, Lethal, Dutton, and Jeff Jarrett. But ultimately, in the end of the day, you got to do something with Jay Lethal, and if it's
Yeah,
tagging and teaming him up with Jeff Jarrett, fine. I mean, Jeff Jarrett, he can still go in the ring at damn near almost 60 years
yeah.
old, which is insane.
The thing is, though, if you want to do anything with Jay Lethal, put him back in ROH, because that man has been
Ultimately,
loyal to
that
Ring of
might,
Honor for years.
honestly, ultimately, that's probably going to be the plan for Jay Lethal anyway, which is sad, but
I mean, what else are you gonna do with Jay Lethal though? Besides, like,
I don't know, push him in AEW.
I mean, yeah, but ultimately, like, I think Tony Khan just has a different direction for what he wants to do with Jay Lethal, which I mean,
I mean, if it's a
it is
tag
what it
team,
is, but
fine. I mean,
yeah.
I'm ultimately okay with it. I think this is
At least
something
they're
different.
utilizing Jay Lethal. Like,
Yeah.
you can't be too upset about that. At
So
least they are
ultimately, I'm okay
utilizing him.
for it. I don't know when this tag team match will have. Hey,
I don't even know like what the big like payoff will be with like Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett.
but ultimately, I mean, I guess I'm okay with them facing off for the tag team title. All right, so we get on to the next um match. It is Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Brian Cage. I mean, a pretty all right match. I mean, Brian Cage, brought it to Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy brought it to Brian Cage, but ultimately, Jungle Boy Jack Perry does get the win over Brian Cage, and then challenges Big Bill, but Stokely Hathaway talks him down and sounds out Lee Moriarty and Big Bill to beat down Jack Perry and Hook. They finally said Hook
To
to help
help
out
Jack
Jack
Perry.
Perry.
Seems like they're building towards like a tag team match with Hook and Jack Perry versus Lee Moriarty and Big Bill, which is weird that like they're even like having a program with like a tag team like program with Lee Moriarty and Big Bill, but like you know
Yeah, I mean, I hate to
that's
say it.
another one too that
This
like
is
is kind of
probably
getting
gonna happen on Rampage Holiday
yeah.
Bash, which is sad, but hey, you gotta do something with Rampage. I mean, so ultimately, I think this is going to be on Rampage that when this match is going to happen. But the match between Big Bill and Jack Perry, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, could happen probably on the New Year's Smash edition of Dynamite. So who knows? Um, as far as Big Bill and Jungle Boy Jack Perry, who are we thinking?
I mean, it's safe to say that that feud is not even over, but more than likely, Big Bill is just gonna keep like beating down Jack Perry, and then Jack Perry's gonna keep coming back and being like, "Hey, big man, I can take you down. I took down Luchasaurus, who is another big man. I'll be able to take you down, big man," like kind of thing. So
Yeah, I'm ultimately thinking it's gonna be Jungle Boy, but hopefully. this rises momentum as a singles competitor and gets them into maybe a title opportunity further down the line. So finally,
Yes.
Swerve and Keith Lee will
Lee.
finally meet face to face in San Antonio on
Yes,
Dynamite.
tonight's Dynamite. With
Thoughts?
Rick Ross being the mediator. So, more than likely, Keith Lee will start talking. Rick Ross will look at him and be like, accusations! False accusations.
Yeah, so.
But it will be interesting to see what happens with that
I think it's
face-to-face meeting.
I think ultimately it's gonna lead into a match further down the line. We've seen this coming. We've been smelling the blood in the water here.
Who's to say they don't build to like a pay-per-view match at Revolution?
I think so. It would be
Swerve
cool. I
Lee.
would be totally fine with a pay-per-view match at the end of the day between Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee. So we're gonna go on to the next thing. House of Black.
Match, there's not really much to
House
talk
of Black
about
beat the Factory.
Squash match.
Like, let's be honest. Like, House of Black has been on a tear. Like, they're gunning for tag team gold at the end of the day. I think that's what they're gunning for.
Also tonight,
Hikaru Shida will face off against Jamie Hayter on
Dynamite in San Antonio tonight.
Yeah, so as much as I would love to see Hikaru Shida back as being the women's world champion, it's not going to happen.
No.
Jamie Hayter, I think they're going to ride her, the momentum, the Hayter A train a little longer than expected. So,
hey, listen, Hayter's going to hate. Okay.
I ultimately do think this is going to lead into Britt Baker getting jealous that Hayter's, got more, fame,
more buzz around her than
her. So ultimately, I think that what's going to happen at Revolution is going to be Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter for the Women's World Championship. I would be all for it. I mean, I would hate to see Britt get another title opportunity, but it makes sense in the storyline with in the long-term storyline with their love-hate relationship type of thing. So
the next match was very interesting because Chris Jericho was talking about like, oh, I'm facing some jobber and I'm gonna beat him, and then next thing you know, the jobber actually beat him.
Yeah,
and that jobber ended up being Action Andretti, who got that upset victory over Jericho and is now officially signed to AEW. So Action Andretti is
the fans were all on board.
Yeah, dude, they were chanting big time. They were like, "Let's go, Jobber!"
Yeah, they
were big time behind Action Andretti.
Yeah, honestly, he's not a bad wrestler. He's a great high flying talent.
Although I think he's really gonna be like just what does he call it? Like a good hand or something like going off of like the recent Impact taping episode, like John Schuyler and Jason Hotch, they're gonna be just a couple of good hands. That's what I feel like is gonna happen with Action Andretti. He's just gonna be like a good hand for AEW. That's mainly gonna be used for like enhancement talent or like just a couple of like AEW dark stuff. But unless they build him up like on Rampage or something like that, I could kind of see that. Cool? But
team him up with Dante and Darius Martin.
Oh, Top Flight. Like put him with Top Flight.
Yeah.
Make him a
trio guy with them because he's got.
I don't hate that idea.
Because honestly, he's got that he's got that high flying ability, and I think he matches their style of high flying. Offense and all the other stuff. So honestly,
now that you mention it, I do kind of see
no
that.
offense to the one that they did have, AR Fox, who is also signed under AEW too. Nothing against AR Fox. I mean, he's good and everything too. But ultimately, Action Andretti has a lot more of that it factor, and he's a younger guy and somebody that would match, their adrenaline and their speed and everything like that. High flying offense. So And you got to do something with Top Flight anyway, because they're barely
Right.
used on TV. They're mostly on freaking
Well,
dark elevation.
I
So,
think ultimately what they're gonna do with Top Flight is relegate them to Ring of Honor, which honestly I don't hate because like at least they can get that exposure and that like notoriety
hmm
on Ring of Honor to like further propel. I mean, granted, they did have that popularity like when they first entered in that match against uh, the Young Bucks, which is what got them signed to AEW in the first place. But like, injuries have just kind of plagued them for a good majority of their like entire AEW run. So it's like, put them on Ring of Honor, like let them build their names again, like kind of build their stock to
hmm
get back up to like a Rampage level or like a Dynamite level, and just have them start climbing the tag team rankings and like Ring of Honor, and then eventually AEW, so that they can start earning some tag team gold.
right,
Because honestly, Top Flight deserves some tag team gold, whether it's Ring of Honor or AEW. Like, let them face the Briscoes, let them face the Acclaimed
right.
eventually. Like,
So the Guns seem to want to face FTR to a match. Will they put one of their tag team titles on the line against the Guns? I
I
don't.
did not see that in the
Uh,
graphic for tonight's Dynamite. They are actually facing, FTR is actually facing the Guns tonight on Holiday Bash. I did not see that
no, none of the tag
either
team
of the tag
title.
team
No,
titles are
they're
on the
not.
line, which honestly, good, because what have the Guns done to even deserve a shot at one of their tag team titles,
Right. Um,
let alone both?
I think this is going to be a lot better than what people are going to think it is. I mean, the Guns are a very underrated team, so
I will agree with that.
I
I can
really do
agree with
think that
that.
this match is going to be a lot better than what people think it is. I don't think FTR is going to mop the floor with the Guns. I mean, I think it's going to be a good back and forth action that
Yeah,
ultimately is going to be FTR
but
beating them, but
the Guns are just majorly overshadowed by how well FDR has done this whole year.
right,
So ultimately, people are just gonna be like, "Oh, FDR is gonna mop the floor with them." It's like, well, don't sleep on the Guns, though.
right. So Ruby Soho beats Ty Mello, but then gets beaten down by Anna Jay AS and Ty Mello after the match. Ultimately, I think that Ruby Soho is going to find a partner to face off against Anna JAS and Ty Mello.
But who could
Ultimately,
it be?
I
That's
mean,
the big
I'm not
question.
too sure. I'm sure she'll find somebody.
I
Um,
mean, if it wasn't for the fact that she re-signed with WWE, or I should say, like re-signed or returned um, for to WWE, I would have said like Sarah Logan,
hmm,
or in this case, she would have gone by Sarah Rowe.
right,
But now that she's in WWE, there goes that idea. And then, of course, Liv obviously is WWE through and through. So I mean, you can't really have well, even more so, you can't even really call it the Riot Squad in AEW. So but we would be able to have like a Riot Squad reunion of sorts. But I mean,
I mean,
I have no
because
idea
the only
who.
real one that Ruby Soho was really with and teaming with was Ortiz, and that was it.
Yeah, but
So
that's like
I honestly
I
don't
don't
know
see that there would be like an intergender like miss
no,
like
honestly,
um and even
who
then, I
knows?
think that was more so like a thing to try to take the AAA mixed tag team titles. So
Right. So yeah,
we
I
already
mean,
talked about that.
so
Um, we'll get on to the main event
yeah, main event of Dynamite. It's MJF and Ricky Starks. Yeah, it was a really great
for both
match.
the Dynamite Diamond Ring and the AEW World
Yeah,
Championship, which was a like really weird stipulation that they put the Dynamite Diamond Ring on the line on
right.
top of.
Honestly, I mean, this was a
But
really good match between MJF and Ricky Starks. I just ultimately think it's gonna derail Ricky Starks down the card big time after this
Yeah,
loss,
I
which
mean,
sucks. Um, but honestly, I look at the long run. MJF is still gonna have great, opponents
yeah,
facing off against him for the title after the fact. Ricky Starks, it kind of made absolutely no sense why you even gave him an opportunity like that in the first place. Because
yeah,
you kind of figured he was gonna lose and not win, and then now it's
yeah,
like, what do you do with him going forward? Do you have him, you know? I mean, ultimately, I think he's better as he's a great singles guy. Don't get
yeah.
me wrong. He through and
Very
through,
great.
very great singles guy. I just don't know what you do with Ricky Starks going forward.
I mean, either way, he has it out. He has the credentials. Like he's already a bona fide star, you know. But at like to Jason's point, like what do you do with him now? Like, do you have him challenge Ward? I almost said Wardlow. He's not the TNT champion anymore. Do you have him challenge Samoa Joe for the TNT title?
I mean, you could.
Like, I mean, it would be like essentially a full circle thing because that's how he made his debut in AEW was challenging Cody Rhodes then for the
Right.
TNT title in the Open Challenge. So it would essentially come full circle if Ricky Starks were to challenge for the TNT title. But at the same time, it's like I look at it as like I don't think it's the right time for and especially it's not the right opponent for Ricky Starks in Samoa Joe as the TNT champion because honestly, like, you know, no disrespect to Ricky Starks, but he's just not a credible opponent for somebody like Samoa Joe.
Right. So MJF, yeah, he retains in the
It's
AEW World Title and becomes a four-time Dynamite
Dynamite Diamond
Diamond
Ring.
Ring winner. But then Bryan Danielson comes down to chase MJF out of the arena. Could we see Danielson versus MJF for the title soon? Um,
I think it's very
we
possible.
already talked about, yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna
more
happen.
than likely it will happen at Full Gear or not Full Gear, Revolution.
Right.
So obviously they have months and months to build to that, and even more so, MJF has said that like he'll only. I mean, I don't know how truthful that statement is, but MJF said like he's only going to defend his AEW World Championship at like pay-per-view events or whatever.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, Dynamite, you literally just defended it on Dynamite, but to be fair, that's like a pay-per-view like Dynamite for Winter is Coming, so I mean, kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, hey,
Right. So we got to the start of Rampage. Jon Moxley faces off against Sammy Guevara. Um, Jon Moxley must be addicted to his own blood because that man likes to bleed every single freaking match.
yeah,
Whether it's his earring getting torn out of his ear, which, by God, that ear was freaking gushing
oh
blood.
yeah,
Like I think he actually legit got it torn out of his ear, which I think it's insane. Like that, like I don't know why you would let any man be okay with just tearing your freaking earring out of your ear like that. I would not. Um, but man, I tell you, there's a lot of blood vessels in the ear because like all of that freaking blood was just all over his freaking
yeah,
shoulder. But ultimately,
just
this match was
trickling
really
down.
great back and forth. Why Sammy Guevara is
Aside
a
from
very, I mean, give him as much crap as you want
he's a
about.
very good
He's a very
wrestler.
good wrestler,
Yeah,
great in ring worker.
it's
Uh,
just his
but
character is so
did it just seem
stupid.
to me that Jon Moxley just seems very like slow in that ring against Sammy Guevara? Like he just was
A
moving
bit,
very
yeah.
slow. Um, I mean, Sammy Guevara is a very fast, high flying wrestler, so he was just running circles all
Fast
over
paced
Moxley.
offense, yeah.
Moxley just looked kind of
Yeah, Sammy
slow.
Guevara was like running circles through Moxley.
It's almost like Sammy
It's almost as
Guevara.
if Moxley couldn't keep up with Sammy Guevara.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like Sammy Guevara had to basically
Carry that whole
carry that
match.
whole match. Yeah, which
It's
is sad.
possible, but I mean,
I mean, don't get me wrong. Moxley can put on some great matches and can wrestle, but it just looked like he just kind of outclassed by Sammy Guevara, even though ultimately he did beat Sammy Guevara. But then after the match, Heyman and Page and Moxley beat down each other, but the security tried to
tried to
pull
pull
them
them apart, and
apart.
then Hangman ended up hitting a buckshot lariat on one of the poor security guards, laid him out.
Ultimately,
So
it makes you wonder, like, is this gonna lead into a pay-per-view match? I think so.
I
It
mean,
just sucks that Hangman they claim that Hangman and Page is not cleared, but he would have to be cleared enough to be able to go out there and beat down on Moxley.
yeah,
I mean,
Tony Khan wouldn't just send him out there to. Tony Khan and Doc Sampson would not send him out there if he wasn't like in some way, shape, or form like cleared.
right.
So maybe he's not cleared for a match yet, but like he's I don't know like how that process goes. But
Hmm.
also I want to correct you on what you have in your notes. Her name is Soraya now,
Oh yeah.
not Paige. Paige is her old name.
Sorry. Yeah, Saraya will have somebody with her to face off against Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter.
But who?
Um,
She's still got like what, maybe 3 weeks or so to find a partner. Who do we think it could be?
what if it's Chris Statlander? What if like she's actually return?
That's an option.
Like, what if she actually returns for that? It could be possible. I think she would
That
be.
is an option. Um,
I think
but
so.
I also think that like this is like way out of left field, but it could also be either Naomi or potentially Sasha Banks. But
I don't
at the
know how
same
I
time,
don't know how I feel about Sasha, like about Mercedes
Mercedes Bernardo.
being Ollie because just apparently she's very self egotistical and only thinks about herself. Like, yeah, she's good
I
with.
mean, that's
I
yeah.
saw something about like she's good, like she cares about the children, but not care about the adults that pay all that money. She never thanked the fans and all the other stuff. So I don't know how that I
Oh,
think
what
she
are
would
people trying to say she's full of herself?
kind of. I mean,
I mean, that's always been proven though. Like that's nothing out of the ordinary. Like
right.
we all have already known that for like a long time. It's just like why is this coming out now?
I don't know, but
So,
ultimately,
but I mean, that's the thing too is like I feel like it would be kind of hard to get her from Japan to the US in time for January 11th.
that's why I say I
Because
think it's going to be
well,
Chris
that's
Statlander. I think that she's
yeah,
about
either her
ready
or
to come
Naomi,
back.
I think, are the two likely uh, scenarios. And even then, it would be perfect for um, Chris Statlander to be the one to return against. Um, but at the same time, it's like I don't know because honestly, I feel like if you're gonna do that, it's pretty much like shoehorning Chris Statlander into like face Jamie Hayter and like possibly beat her for the world title. Which I mean, it's not entirely a bad thing, but at the
Right.
same time, it's like I've always felt that Statlander was like the perfect opponent to dethrone Jade Cargill.
And she might
So
be
I
too.
mean, like the way that I look at it is like if you're gonna bring Statlander back for anything, have her come back to face Jade Cargill and actually like beat Jade Cargill.
Right.
So, and that's another thing too is like I feel they need to start booking Jade Cargill more to have her get to that 50 win mark, and then once she reaches 50 and 0, then Statlander comes back, beats her at possibly Revolution, becomes the new TBS champion, and then has a like killer run with the TBS title, and just like because honestly, like I hate to say it, you've kind of like trashed the booking of the TBS title because like you
Yeah,
could have done so much with like that, but hey, if you want to make Jade Cargill like out to be this huge threat and like have her on this incredible undefeated streak, that's fine. But like at the same time, it's like you didn't need to do it with Jade Cargill and a championship because
right.
that just ruins the whole like um, prestige and lineage of the title. So
Oh, I agree. So FTR wants to thank the fans for having the greatest year of their careers. Says the Guns aren't going to tear apart their legacy. So it was
since 8 years old,
Dax
yeah,
Harwood.
Dax Harwood was
Said
saying that.
since 8 years old he wanted the people to feel um, his passion, and the Guns ruined it. They plan on whipping their asses. Thoughts?
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen sooner than later. Actually on this current edition of
Yeah,
Dynamite.
tonight's Dynamite.
So going forward, Red Velvet looks like she's ready to turn on Jade. Could there be a breakup and also possibly a title match between the two in the future? I think so. I think we're gonna see Red Velvet getting booted out of the baddies. I think ultimately the baddies are just gonna break away from Jade, and Jade's gonna be like, "I never needed y'all in the first place. I could just do this on my own." So I think it's gonna
Uh,
ultimately lead to all the baddies, leaving her, and that, she's not gonna have the baddie section anymore. It's just gonna be her by herself. But ultimately, I could see Red Velvet facing off against Jade Cargill for the title. That's what it's kind of looking like it's teasing towards. So,
hmm,
what do you think?
it's possible. You
So,
need to learn how to spell their names, my friend.
ooh,
Sky Blue and Jamie Hayter.
Jamie Hayter's spelled right.
No, it's not.
Oh, was it
I
A
had it.
A R?
I had it here. Right there is how you spell it.
I had it right. See?
That's I. That's Jaime.
Oh, that's my bad. So
And Sky Blue is spelled Skye.
okay. So Britt Baker beats Sky Blue. Not really much there because Sky Blue is damn
Poor
near a
Sky Blue is like the jobber.
jobber. Yeah. Um, beats Sky Blue and then gives her the lockjaw after the match, and then out comes Hikaru Shida to beat down Britt and Rebel, as she will face
Jamie
Jamie
Hayter
Hayter.
tonight.
Who do we think will win?
There's no question about it. Jamie
Jamie
Hayter.
Hayter. Yeah.
Like
So
no disrespect to Hikaru Shida, but like
right.
they're AEW is riding that wave of momentum with Jamie Hayter.
Oh, I agree. So Preston Vance wants -1 to grow up. Says that he's a spoiled rotten
Brat.
brat, for the past 2 years, and that he should grow up a little bit. Um, sucks
That's
that
like
-1's not old enough to wrestle, because there was
oh
going to
I
be the
know.
perfect opportunity
It'd
for
be the perfect
-1 to
opportunity.
face off
Yeah.
against Preston Vance, but or be old enough to even actually wrestle or train to wrestle. But ultimately, when he does get that chance to be able to train and wrestle, I think that he'll get signed to AEW, follow in his father's footsteps, and that would be cool to have him face off against Preston Vance. I think I would be all for it, but unfortunately, he's still like 12, 13 years old by now,
Yeah.
so it
Give or
just
take like 12 or 13.
so he's not old enough to be able to wrestle Preston Vance.
Pretty much
But
he's
do
prepubescent.
you think that -1 will get somebody from of his goons to face off against Preston Vance?
I think he's gonna get either like Uno or Silver or Reynolds, because those are like pretty much the only remaining members of the Dark Order left. I mean, Stu Grayson isn't even signed with AEW, but like in a weird way, like he's still kind of like part of the Dark Order, I
Right.
guess, or something like that. Like the whole Stu Grayson situation is like very confusing and odd, but yeah,
So Wardlow beats Exodus Prime,
another jobber.
and then apparently he can't wait to face off against Samoa Joe. And Joe's like,
Joe,
"Well, I don't want to face you now. I don't even want to face you next week. I want to face you in a couple weeks." In the December
at December
28th
28th
edition of
in
Dynamite.
Colorado for New Year's Smash, because
Thoughts?
he doesn't want to face Wardlow in the state of Texas.
Now, do you think that Samoa Joe's going to put both of his titles on the line against Wardlow? Or do you think it's
No,
just going
I
to be
think
the
it's just going to be the
TNT?
TNT title.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's going to give him the opportunity to get
No, because
a
not for
rematch
nothing.
for the title.
Why would the King of Television put both of his championships on the line when he knows that he could potentially lose both? You know what I mean? Just just be smart about it. If you lose one of your titles, at least you still have the other.
Right.
So play it
I would
smart,
hate to
Joe.
see Wardlow win the title back, but ultimately, I think this is still
Honestly,
going to be a good match.
you can't have that happen anyways, because then people will bitch and complain that they're once again hot potatoing the TNT championship, which, that's been pretty much the story since 2021 with the TNT championship, especially with Cody and Sammy being the first to start that little like trend, and then it's continued with Sammy Guevara and Scorpio Sky. It's like, please, can we just get past the era of like hot potatoing the TNT championship? Like,
Right.
you have a good champion right now in Samoa Joe. Keep it that way.
Oh, I agree.
Continue giving Joe like good, credible opponents for the TNT Championship, and even just in general, like keep the flow of open challenges for Joe going, because like that is how you book the TNT Championship well,
Oh, I
not
agree.
hot potatoing it.
So
So
we got into the
moving forward, the main event of
main event.
Rampage.
Rampage, Dustin Rhodes, Orange Cassidy, the best friends face off against Kip Sabian, Tread Seven, and the Butcher and the Blade. And to really no surprise, Dustin Rhodes, Orange Cassidy, and the best friends beat Kip Sabian, Tread Seven, and the Butcher and the Blade.
The big question that I have, and it hasn't even been announced as like official yet. Is Trent Seven signed
I mean, he's
or
wearing
not?
all like
Like,
the AEW stuff, so I would think that he probably is signed.
they just haven't made it official. Tony Khan hasn't like posted the graphic of like Trent Seven is hashtag all elite. I mean, he could be all elite for all we know, but
Right.
until we get official confirmation, Trent Seven, for the time being, is not all elite. I think, and if anything, Trent Seven is probably like on a per appearance deal. So I mean, like he appeared on the last two Dynamites, so or at least I should say on the last two Rampage shows. So he might just be signed to AEW. Like, I don't know.
Right.
And even then, if he isn't, then he can feel free to go to like anywhere else and like do what he does best. Like, even in England, like he could potentially go back to Progress or like ICW or something like that. But
Right.
I don't. Either way, Trent Seven is an amazing talent. He has like a world of potential, and he's gonna do great things no matter where he goes, uh even if he did sign with AEW, even if he didn't sign with AEW, like the amount of potential and charisma that that man has is just like unmatched.
Right. I agree. So this is going to conclude this episode of No Final Bell. Make sure to follow us on to social media at Tinkle Sports. Um, our channel is Tinkle Sports and Entertainment on YouTube and also Facebook Watch. And then we have this show usually every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Sunday morning Tinkle every Sunday at 9 a.m. except for um, this week it's going to be on Saturday instead because of Christmas. I think the same thing with New Year's. I think it's going to be back to being New Year's Day. So at least for 1 week it's going to be Saturday morning Tinkle, and then the week afterwards it'll be back to being Sunday. We do have out of turn 4 every Tuesday at 5, but it's currently on hiatus at least until next year when racing season is back in full force. So we want to conclude this episode. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.